Pogostemon Helferi, also known as Downaway to most people outside of the US, or maybe inside the US. I'm not 100% sure who calls it what. I've always called it Pogostemon Helferi, mainly because it just makes it easier for me to kind of identify exactly what I'm talking about. And Downaway is not commonly used in my neck of the woods out here in the upper left corner of the United States. I have been a huge fan of this plant for a very long time, I have to admit. I think it's probably one of the coolest carpeting plants in the aquarium hobby. It has these little crinky leaves, it kind of grows out like these little crowns, and it just looks really cool. It has this great vibrant green to it, so if you think dwarf baby tears, it's that same kind of tone of green. It's really bright green, and this is a real eye catcher to anybody that comes by your Planet Aquarium to check it out and just like, whoa, what is that? You know, it's one of those plants. Whereas, you know, there are a lot of plants that I have where people go like, are those real? Huh. All right, that's kind of neat. But this one, they literally just go like, what is happening? Definitely recommend it for anybody out there that has a reasonable setup. The setup for this is pretty basic. You don't have to go too crazy, but I do recommend a little bit of CO2, some decent substrate. You really got to be decent substrate on this one. It's a pretty heavy on the root feeding. Although I have grown it in gravel like a really long time ago. I grew this in turface, which actually is a substrate used in baseball fields, believe it or not, or maybe if you're in the UK, the cricket pitch. I have done that before, but of course I had to add a lot of root tabs and things like that, which is not a big part of my hobby these days, adding root tabs. I kind of try to stay away from that and just stick with my liquid ferts. I find it a lot easier to manage, personally, just utilizing liquid fertilizer and testing the water to see where my nitrates are at, and that's kind of the basic thing. It's about medium fertilizer here. Just a comprehensive fertilizer will be fine. Lighting, medium to high. You definitely either want a lot of light on this, which will cause it to grow more compact, or what I kind of have is medium high lighting, maybe just medium lighting. In the tank that this is in, this video's featured the 150 is where I have it in. I also have it in some other tanks, and you'll probably see that as the months go by. I'll probably do a little bit of a feature on that. But for right now, we're just going to talk about how this is growing in the 150. It's growing quite well, I have to admit. It's sending out its side shoots, which means it's time to propagate it. As you'll notice in this video, we will propagate it, and I'll show you how to trim it up close and personal. Once you have your specimen in hand, you'll start to realize the difficulty with this plant is getting it established, getting it growing, and propagation is actually one of the easier parts because it is basically self-identifying. It has a crown, a stem, and a root on each of the side shoots, and that's when you know it's time to go ahead and trim it. And that's where you're going to trim it, right at the base, so that you end up with a crown, a stem, and a root. Very, very simple, and it's basically propagation that anybody could figure out fairly quickly. Now, I'm using some surgical scissors here, which might be fairly difficult to find on the market these days, but they are in my Amazon store if you do want to check that out. Be aware, I am an affiliate, so we do get paid from those links. Sharp scissors are important because you will just kind of mash the stem on this one, but that's basically all it is. You could probably use some household scissors and get away with those just fine. You don't need anything specialty to get this going, but I would not recommend the fingernail trick of just pinching this, because you will kind of end up with these kind of crushed stems that don't grow as well. As you move through and remove all the stems, just remember the leftover bit of the center of the plant, you do want to maintain all of that, because you can go ahead and remove this bottom part right here and keep this as a mother plant in another tank. So you want to put this into a tank that isn't a full-on display, because it will send off a whole bunch of new side shoots if you reroot it in a healthy aquarium. And you know what that means: more plants, more opportunity, and something to trade with other fish keepers and aquascapers. Planting is as simple as utilizing some planting tongs, which I feel are pretty essential for this. I wouldn't recommend trying to do this with your fingers, but it's as simple as just planting each stem down into the substrate so that they have enough space to grow. Typically I leave about 2 centimeters in between when I'm planting, just so that they're kind of tightly together, and then as they grow larger I will eventually pull them out, trim them, and replant them again, and not allow them to get completely overgrown. But I'm also not upset when they do get overgrown, because that is quite attractive also. This is a pretty easy, really cool plant. I'd recommend you could get it. I've seen it for sale on eBay. I was going to say get it from Aquarium Co-op, but I don't think that they're carrying it right now. But I got mine personally from Joe Collins on Facebook. Shout out, he sometimes sells plants on like the high-tech aquarium or high-tech planted tanks, whatever other planted tanks. There's a lot of planted tank groups on Facebook. I found Joe on there. He sent them out to me. I think I ordered like 25 or something like that. Worked out great. Came in the mail. Got them adapted. Got them growing. And it worked out quite well. So find Joe Collins on Facebook if you're looking to maybe make a new aquarium friend or buy some plants or something like that if he has something for sale. Every time I've tried to get this plant in the past, like 2 years, I've either gotten a tissue culture, which never worked out that great for me, of this specific plant. They just kind of withered away, didn't convert very well, or it was just terrible timing, and I ended up putting them somewhere where they just got forgotten about, like in a sump somewhere, and I come back, you know, I pull them out a few months later and go like, oh, well, I got some nubbins, let me see what happens, and I try to plant those and they don't work out that well. So over the last couple years, I have gotten a couple tissue culture cups mainly, and they just didn't convert that well. So it was just kind of poor timing because I was working on other projects and didn't have a lot of time for it, and just kind of set it aside. That's my own fault, and I'll admit it, and it kind of sucks, but at least it's plants and it's not like a critter or something, you know what I mean? I always got to pay attention to my shrimp and stuff like that, and you know, sometimes plants take the brunt of for being too busy, which is okay. But of course I have my fish room set up that way. Terrible timing aside, I finally just was ready to get this plant, and it came in at the right time, so worked out perfectly, and I'm happy to say that it's filling in the areas of the tanks that I really want it to. The front of the 150 is kind of Got a mishmash of things at the front of it. And I think at this point, I'm probably going to focus on the Pogostemon Helferi to fill in the front of the tank. I think that's realistically what I'm going to be doing up here with the front, just to let it fill in and have it less... what's the word I'm looking for? I'd like to have it be more focused at the front of the aquarium here, with just some bright green covering the whole entire front. And this plant will definitely do that. It won't take that long to fill it in. As you can see, it's already splitting quite a bit. We're propagating it rapidly, and it will take over that area of the tank pretty fast. So if you're looking for something at the front of the tank, this is a great plant for that. It'll fill in, looks really cool, and like I said, people will check it out and they'll be like, oh my god, this is so rad. Hey man, you like plants and stuff? Aquariums and things? That's what I do on this channel. So, yeah, subscribe. Click buttons down below. Become a member. Join up on our Discord. All that kind of stuff. Do all of the things. The YouTube stuff. You know what's going on. All right. Later.